All right, it's time to repaint targets on the woods walk. Figured I'd bring y'all along and let you see what I'm shooting at and how it's holding up, and hopefully you can get some ideas from this and you can make your own. First one is way down in that hollow, so I'll bring you back. Now, this one doesn't get repainted too terribly often because it is a pain to get down to. But on that note, it's nice because the way the target is hanging, it gets shot on all sides, so I don't have to come down here too often to do that. This is just some steel pipe that I found laying in the woods somewhere. Probably 3/16 wall diameter, and you can see it can take a beating. That was from someone shooting. They shouldn't have been shooting something they should not have been shooting on this range. But other than that, just a couple dents here and there, but these hold up really well. This is the first target that I came up with for this woods walk. There were 6 of them to start, and I think all 6 of them are probably still on the range, but I was really hoping that they'd ring like a bell when you hit them. They don't. They just kind of make a thwack sound, but usually, especially things are hanging by a rope and a little bit of chain, you can tell when you hit them. On to the next one. All right, walking up on the second target. As I mentioned with the last one, this target range, this woods walk range, was designed primarily with 22s and muzzleloaders in mind. And that's muzzleloaders with a modest charge. You can't come out here and shoot these targets with, 150 grains of 777 in a Savage round. It'll just go right through them. But for the most part, everything holds up really well to, like I said, muzzleloaders, 22s, and non-magnum pistol cartridges. Target number 3 here is brand new to the range. This is a chunk of some sort of rail. I don't know if it's from like a metro train or like some sort of cart from like a mining operation. Which doesn't make sense. We don't do that around here. I don't know what it's from, but it's just a little piece of rail, only like 1.5 inches thick. But when it hangs, this is the face that you're seeing. Just have it hanging from some 3/8, maybe 5/16 inch chain. I don't know, but the chain's pretty sturdy and it'll hold up to plenty. This is a brand new target, like I said. Just welded it together this morning. So I have no doubt that can take a beating. The question is, can my crappy welds take it? Only time will tell. All right, one of the very few actual target grade AR 500 steel targets that I have on this range. This one was retired from my regular shooting range because you can see all those hairline fractures just going in every direction. So I don't think this plate would have lasted much longer with, all those high-powered center-fired rifles and all that silly crap. So it went to the retirement home of the woods where it's just living an easy life of 22s and muzzleloaders. Up next, just another spinner. You can see those bumps. Imagine what the other side looks like. Yeah. This target was apparently rated for 30-06, but that was probably like 500 yards because it was set up on, my other range, and well, that's what happened to it with just 223. So again, out to the woods for an easy retirement. All right, so I spared y'all the last 2 because they were just pipes like the first target, but this one I'm pretty happy about. This one is brand new. This is made from a 4-foot earth anchor that got bent while installing it, and I said, well, let's add a couple more bends and make a hanging snake. I did not really want it to be black, but the other paint that I had in mind was lime green. I was going to do like a striped effect on it. I couldn't find the lime green. So we're going to paint the head. Yep. And leave them at that. Pretty cool. Should hold up really well. The head is just, I cut like a little diamond shape out of some 3/8 inch mild plate steel. In my experience, that holds up just fine to what I said. Well, like I said, what this range is designed for. So we'll see how this one holds up. Pretty excited about this one. All right, this one is my second longest shot on the range. And this is just some of that same 3/8 inch plate steel. This one is, gosh, about 5x7. It holds up just fine. There's no actual real dents in there to speak of. Just some tiny little pock marks, and who knows what that was even from. But this one, you can't see where I'm shooting from. Well, kind of can. Way up in that area. And this one is probably about a 45 to 50 yard shot. It's a fun target, especially when it's in the shade. Even the orange, you can't really see it too great, but adds to the challenge. All right, so up next, what these are straw chopping knives. Came off the back end of a combine. These are the second targets that I used when I built this woods walk. And they're great because it's a hardened steel. When you actually hit them, well, you can't tell because I'm holding it, but they do ring pretty well. You can see the problem that I'm having though. I had probably about 6 or 7 of these on the range, and I found that they started cracking pretty much all from that spot right there. So I'm slowly phasing these ones out, but this is a fun target because from like a hunting standpoint, you know you pretty much never have a clear shot. And while it's not a very far shot, you stand up there through all those trees, all those thin little beaver chewed poplars and all that, and that's what you got to shoot through. So depending on how tall you are, you have to crouch down, lean against stuff, jump up in the air, whatever you got to do to figure out how to shoot this one. So this is a pretty neat target. I'll probably replace this one. I do have a like a 3 or a 4 inch actual target plate. I might swap out for this one. They don't ring when you hit them that well, but it'll hold up better than that. You can see there's a big old crack. And I guess it would just make the target smaller and more difficult, but I don't like it when stuff breaks. On to the next one. All right, this one I call the Widowmaker's chain. It used to be twice as long, but if you recall from that little chunk of rail, I wanted to use something like chain to hang that one so it actually moved more when you hit it. So I stole half of this target. I need to find something to hang on the bottom of this one because it's strung up from a long rope. And if you're just shooting the woods walk solo, that's fine. But when that thing gets to swinging, if you're shooting as a group, first person that hits it, the rest of the guys ain't got much of a chance. This is a really hard target, but it's fun. The reason it's called a Widowmaker's chain, as you can see that big old leaning tree, my trail goes right next to that. And about a year ago, instead of falling in any other direction, that big old dead oak decided to fall and get caught up in that beech tree over there. So there it stands, the Widowmaker. All right, so I skipped the last 3 because they're just more pipes. You don't need to see me painting a pipe. But this one is fun. It's not terribly far away, but it is a wee little chunk of steel. Again, part of a broken part of a combine. And it makes for a right fun little target. So this one is just about 1.5 inches by maybe 4 inches of target space. It's not made of hardened steel. You can see where it's all getting dented up, but it's got a lot of life left in it. You'll see I had to readjust this shepherd's hook because when it was just a simple hook, the target, every time you hit it, it would flip up, ride that chain down, and you'd have to go reset it every time. This way, The worst that can happen is maybe sometimes they'll get stuck up like that, but no big deal. Next person that shoots it, good to go. Most of my targets are hung off of these shepherd's hooks. You can get them on Amazon. Just got to make sure that you get the solid ones and the right size. If you get the real thin ones for like hanging like little yard lanterns, it doesn't work. Also have a cinder block on the bottom of these, because when you start really wrapping on these targets, they get loose in the ground, and setting that cinder block on top really just kind of holds them right where they need to be. All right. And last, but certainly not least, is another plate that got retired from the range. All its hanging ears got broken off. 22-250 punched a hole in it. Had to drill a new hole, which if you ever drilled through, AR 500, it ain't easy. I had to go buy a masonry bit, which I guess isn't the intended use, but it got the job done. But anyway, that is a 10-inch plate, and that is a 60-yard shot across the pond, which is now currently frozen, from that little rinky-dink dock over there. Great way to end the woods walk. Anyway, like I said, all these targets were pretty much from the scrapyard. A couple of them are actual AR 500 steel, like this one. But if you were going to set up a woods walk like I have set up here and do all AR 500, that's an expensive woods walk. I barely paid anything for most of the stuff on here. Go to your local scrap yards. If you have a welding shop nearby, I mean, a lot of times they just have a pile of scrap, and their scrap usually ends up being about the perfect size for a target. And it just never hurts to ask. Find an old farmer. They always have scrap sitting around. So I hope you enjoyed this. If I didn't mention it before, this is the longest shot. This one's, I think I measured this one at 60 yards from that little dock, and all my targets range from maybe 10 yards all the way out to 60. 16 targets if I counted correctly, so it'll keep you busy for an hour or so if you shoot them all. And if you're with a group, you can spend a whole afternoon out here just having a good time. So get out there, shoot some, have a good time, and just keep burning that powder.